Okay, we're recording now. So have you had any public speaking situations or presentations this week?
Yes. Uh, it actually there's a bunch of different presentations that I had this week because we're doing our yearly planning, and there is a lot of things to discuss and present. So uh, I could tell you about the non-work one, which I think is the one that you wanted to hear about. We
Yeah.
had our Pride kickoff because Vancouver Pride is not until August, but there is a kickoff party for everyone where basically people get introduced and um, say what their organization is and what they're planning for Pride. And it's meant to be like a big networking session, but you kind of do that as the like kumbaya moment where everyone
Mhm.
gets together and gets to know each other, so it's less awkward to just strike up a conversation because they can comment on what you shared. Um, I find now, like since we started working together in a public speaking situation, I like my accent always did a thing where it changed when I was public speaking. When I lived in the UK, I would go very Queen's English, very um or I will now go through this presentation kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Um and just the other thing that I once had one of my managers watch me present. He was like, "Yeah, your accent changed. You were a lot clearer and a lot more like enunciated and posh."
Hmm, that's
um,
interesting.
I think I don't do that so much anymore, particularly in work meetings. I wouldn't do it. It's more if I'm actually standing on a stage and there is people in front of me, like we had at the Pride opener this week. And this time I noticed that I would start to fall back more into the kind of accent that we've been developing together, maybe because like a lot of my time was spent on that. And because that wasn't a pre-existing condition, was the other thing you wanted to hear about was I went to a midsummer party on Friday. Two friends in Vancouver, they used to live in Sweden, and they love European culture. And one thing you do in Sweden is you celebrate midsummer on the longest weekend, the weekend with the longest days of the year. Um,
Okay, yeah.
so usually you have like one of those big stakes up and you dance around it. They didn't quite have enough didn't quite have enough space on a patio to do that. Uh,
So you're kind of like dancing small.
oh no, we weren't, there was no dancing, but there was lots of eating.
I lost your window. I'm trying to find myself again. Sorry. But yeah.
And there was a bunch of people. There was, but there was a bunch of people around, and as it's Vancouver, people come from all sorts of places, and it was interesting because there was uh, two fellow partygoers from South Africa. There was people from different places in Canada with different accents, and a couple of people from the US as well. There was my partner as well. Do you want me
I'm
to
sorry, I
wait?
missed a bunch of that. I apologize. My
Oh,
network connection dropped. So
oh,
the last part I heard was there was a bunch of people around.
yeah. And they were from different backgrounds. So we had Canadians and Americans and two South Africans and my partner who is British. And one thing that was really interesting that he observed was as he was walking around with me, depending on who I was talking to, my accent adjusted to whatever they were doing, which is nice. Like it sort of just tries to mirror what I'm hearing, um, which is
That's
fun.
totally normal. That's really common and normal that
Mhm.
people do that.
I think it maybe appears more to him now because we've been working on all of these different particular aspects uh, of the Pacific Northwest accent, and I'm guessing us having done this work, it now helps my system to try and imitate more easily. So it's maybe, I guess to an outside listener, it might sound like an overcorrection to what a normal person might do.
Hmm. Like trying to like match what the person
Yeah.
before you said.
Or maybe just a bigger change between people, because I don't know if necessarily if you're speaking as if you're sitting as a group, I don't know if necessarily there would be such a big difference between like whoever the main speakers are, if that makes sense.
Maybe it's more one-on-one,
Yes.
not as a group. Okay. If you're sitting as a group, it wouldn't happen as much.
Oh, no, sorry, that's not what I was trying to explain. What I was trying to explain was it would the thing that he found strange is because you sit as a group of maybe like 5 or 6, and depending on who I was addressing, according to him, there was a significant difference. I didn't really notice it because it was sort of happening in the background, but he said that he was perceiving a significant difference between different people.
It's good to have that feedback from an outside observer. Because we don't know what we're doing as we do it all the time, but we might notice later on, like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Like, if you have like you see like a recording, or you hear a recording of something, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize I was doing that. Do you feel like shy or embarrassed about doing this? Not that you should.
Not really.
Good. Okay, you should. Speech convergence is common, and I didn't do this research myself, but I know linguists who did research on it, and people use it as a way to cooperate more. So they found in like a complex task, they made a bunch of people build something out of Lego together, and the people who started talking more similarly to each other did the task faster. So this leads to the speech convergence, or like matching the person you're with. It leads to cooperation. So it's actually a good thing. I think it's like a totally human thing for us to do. But then we have this feeling of like, oh, I don't want to be like the guy on Curb Your Enthusiasm where he like does a British accent whenever he hears a British accent, and it's like embarrassing. Like, not like that kind of thing. Do you know that show?
I know that the show exists, but I haven't personally watched it.
Should have given the example. My mom, she can't help it, but if she hears a British accent, she like starts talking in a British accent, and it's like embarrassing. And it's I don't mean this extent. It's not like that.
I don't think it was to this extent.
No. No. My mom's just really good at that. It can be, we don't notice what we're doing sometimes, but what you're talking about, speaking more similarly, is completely normal, completely human. So yeah, if anyone notices, just be like, oh, that's something humans do so that we can cooperate. It's like yawns being contagious, you know?
I guess it's how pidgin languages develop as well, because several Caribbean islands, you have like pidgin languages that are somewhere between English and whatever the native tongue was, because people started cooperating with the settlers who landed, and they just came up with their own way of speaking because they were isolated enough.
Yeah. I love hearing about stuff like that, like where their word for something is like this pretty much the same as in English, but just kind of slightly changed. Like in Samoa, they have talas instead of dollars because of how they heard dollars, and that's how they transferred it over. So there's like lots of stuff like that, like pidgin words that just become the new representation. That's cool. I think it's awesome. Pidgins and Creoles are like super interesting, and I would love to learn more about them. You've traveled the world. I'm sure you have some interesting stories. So compared to work events versus like more personal kind of things, do you feel like there's a difference in your accent changing around people?
Maybe. I feel like there is, because my boyfriend makes fun of how I speak in work meetings because he just likes to poke fun at me for whatever.
Yeah.
But he says that my business voice is like more determined.
Sorry, what'd you say again? It says my business voice.
He says my business voice is um more driven, more determined, and like less soft. So I think it's maybe not necessarily. I think it's also accent, but it's also tone and how you talk about certain things. I feel like there is because you can like look up reels and stuff of people like overdoing corporate speech. I feel like that also has an impact because if I'm in a meeting with somebody who clearly has no idea what they're talking about and they just try and hide between a bunch of language, you know, it kind of becomes obvious and yeah, I then I don't want to say aggressive, but I'm quite direct at work, whereas in my personal life, I don't need to do that. So uh, often when people who I've only met at work meet me in person, they're kind of um, they're a little confused by that because it's not a different person. It's just in my personal life, I'm much more like I still have a lot of structure, but I'm more relaxed about when stuff happens and how we do stuff and things like that. And then people expect me and a group of friends to just go, okay, yeah, you're going to plan this thing. You're going to tell us when we have to move on to the next place, kind of the thing, because that's what you do as your job. And I can do that. I'm quite good at it, but I don't necessarily need to do it if I've already done it for 40 plus hours a week.
Right? You did it all day and you want to take a break. Don't have to do it. Don't use that if you don't have to. That assertive Daniel.
Assertive, yeah.
Work voice. That's fair enough. And also to be fair, like people expect speakers of German to be like very direct. I feel like we've understood that culturally. Some language backgrounds are just more direct. Just literally like the wording, the syntax, and everything.
Oh yeah.
Like maybe that's just like a linguist thing to say, like, oh, people know that people who speak German will use very direct language. I was in a hostel in New Zealand, and this speaker of German, I overheard her telling someone, "Oh, you need to brush your teeth. Your breath smells disgusting." And we were all like, "Wow, that's rude." And she was like, "No." And it was my first experience, kind of observing this multicultural interaction.
Yeah. It's just yeah. I guess
that's one example, though. I mean,
their reasoning would have been no, I'm just describing the situation.
that's the thing. It's like it might not have appeared rude to some people who are used to assertive language, direct language, but I'm sure people talk about how in Canada we're so polite all the time. I think we're not really actually polite. We're like fake polite.
I think Canadians are very good at following social rules, and I actually also think that Canadians get very, very upset if they are in a group where everyone doesn't understand that. Like people will have very strong reactions. For example, if you're at the airport and they ask you to go through a zone 1, zone 2, zone 3 onto your flight, and then somebody with a zone 3 ticket lines up by accident or willingly into zone 2, like they will, like, it breaks the Canadian social contract, even if they wouldn't like necessarily turn around to that person and go, oh no, what are you doing? But they would all like to each other go,
like that.
pages, they're in zone 3.
They're tweeting about it like, I can't believe these people. Animals, wrong zone. Yeah, the rules.
One time this year when I was going to Europe, I was waiting to board a flight and there was a girl next to me, just on her headphones. She was calling a friend and she was saying, oh yeah, Susan at work, you know, I think she's American. She's just not very nice, and she's really direct to people all the time. I don't know where she's from, but she's definitely American.
I like your accent that you did for her. It's like kind of nasally, like.
Oh yeah, she sounded she was definitely, she looked like she was in tech, and she was definitely like, she definitely had a bit of that nasally Californian drawn out.
That's funny because she's Canadian ostensibly by complaining about how Americans are too direct.
Spent too much time in San Francisco with her company.
Yeah. I kind of appreciate the directness, and I wish I was more assertive personally, but I also realize that like you can't be perfect all the time, all at once, and that's just, I guess that's just my reason for not trying to be more assertive.
And different people need different levels.
Yeah, I often have like assertive hangover where if I'm too assertive later on, I'm like, oh no, did I bother that person? Like, did I do something wrong? Like, oh God. So yeah, it's not easy. But this is actually really fascinating to listen to what you're talking about. It gives me a lot of insight. So thank you for basically entertaining my questions about how your accent changes. Not everyone wants to go into such detail, so I appreciate that detail. It's like, so thank you for that. Yeah,
It's fun.
I'm having fun with our lessons for sure. I wanted to check in with you about the last task we did, which was doing a recording passage. These passages, I didn't write them, someone else has written them, and they have all these standardized sounds. So there's more. I think you did Comma Gets a Cure, the one about the duck with foot and mouth disease and the millionaire lawyer. Did you not do Comma Gets a Cure about the veterinarian?
No.
I could just hear your voice in my head. There's a whole bunch of other ones. You did the grandfather one last time, and you've done
Yes.
like the English language contains.
Yes.
So there's tons of them, and there's this website, this like it's York University. Oh, it's in the UK. So it's not the one in Toronto or whatever. So this passage, the Rainbow Passage, it's really long. I usually do just the beginning to the kind of pot of gold at the end of the rainbow part. So I'm going to cut and paste that into the document. Just gives us a smaller chunk to work on first.
Excellent.
But I wanted to check with you. There's a whole bunch of these passages, and you could pick one if you wanted to. Like by looking at this list, there's the Rainbow Passage. There's Comma Gets a Cure, which I just mentioned. There's the North Wind and the Sun. Did we not do this one? North Wind and the Sun?
I don't think so.
Ooh, this one's good. It has some
so it's only your tab that is sharing, so I can't see it just now, but I can go to it 1 second.
Can you see it now? It's shared. I'm sharing this.
Maybe. Yes, I can see it. North Wind and the Sun. No, I don't think we've done that.
There's a bunch of these. This one's pretty short. So Arthur the Rat, even I think there's probably one about going to the amusement park. So basically, by the time we're finished doing these phonetic scripts, someone will write new ones. There'll be new ones to practice. So I like doing that. And for each of these scripts, we can do part of them at first, and then we can do more of them if you want.
Oh, yeah, cool. And I can always, we can always do like the first passage together, and then I can go in and do more if I have time.
Yeah, actually, that's good, because then you have that sample. Because usually these are repetitive. They say the same.
Oh, that's good. Because then I don't learn anything wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like that would be really helpful.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. So I've just cut and pasted these first few sentences. Oops. Back to your share this tab instead. Excellent. Okay. I don't think this one has any. There's just one American spelling for something. So we're already recording, so you can start this whenever you want, and I'll try and highlight it as you go also.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air, they act as a prism and form a rainbow. Did you want to do sentence per sentence, or shall I carry on?
Sentence by sentence, yeah.
Sentence by sentence.
Yeah. There was nothing there to complain about, so you can do the next sentence.
The rainbow is a division of white light into. Sorry, I'm just going to restart this. Like the melody wasn't right.
Yeah, that's fine.
The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
Good. Nothing there that I can complain about.
These take the shape of a long round arch with its path high above and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon.
All your R's are sounding really good. Those vocalic
I've
R's.
been practicing.
Sounds awesome. You done good.
The problem is, well, not the problem, but it's like I do it in conversation naturally now. And it was so weird because yesterday, and I know we're meant to be practicing this, I'm going to come back to it. But yesterday, my friend from the UK who also lives here, she's got her sister visiting from the UK, and her sister speaks the Queen's English. Like, she is very, very British and sounds very posh. And so we go for a drink last night after dinner, and waiter comes out, asks us what we want, we do our order, and then we get to the end and he goes, "Are you all British Airways cabin crew?" Because we're all, I don't know, youngish, and we arrived like at a rough time, and I guess the British Airways cabin crew turns up every night.
Just go with it, like, oh, yes, please keep your arms inside the plane at all times. I love
We are.
That's fun. You can mess with people like that you might never see again.
Yeah.
Just mess with people, it's fun.
That's the party trick that I want to get to. So that once it becomes fully controllable, I can just I can do what I did at the party accidentally and just go like.
Do it on purpose.
I'm going to introduce myself to a bunch of people now, and then I'm going to do a Mexican accent, an Italian accent, a French accent.
Just switch each sentence, and then people will kind of be like, "Oh, it's a moving target."
Okay.
Yeah.
These take these take these take the shape of a long round arch with its path high above and its two ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Nicely done. Nice connecting that one. So that's the only thing I had for that sentence. Next sentence, please.
There is, according to legend, a boiling pot of gold at one end.
Mm-hmm. Let me hear pot of gold, all one. Pot of gold.
Pot of gold.
Yeah. It's almost like pod, like a pot of whales. Pot of gold. Pot of gold.
Unless if you really wanted to focus on that pot, like you could a pot. but
pot
like
of gold.
But then like no, that in this case it doesn't work because the important thing is the gold. But if you wanted to focus on the fact that there is a pot.
Boiling pot of gold at one end. I tried looking for the pot. I couldn't find it. I never mind.
Did you want me to do that one again or next one?
Let me hear just this phrase with the connection.
A boiling pot of gold at one end.
Nicely done. And the vowel for pot was really good too. That vowel.
People look, but no one ever finds it.
Let me hear the R on ever, just a little bit. Yeah. Ever.
I do more of a New York ever because they got
ever.
No
one ever finds it.
No one ever finds it ever. Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be able to switch it on and off, which is nice.
Yeah. It just needs to be consistent because otherwise it trips people up and then they start thinking.
Yeah,
People look, but no one ever finds it.
excellent.
When a man looks for something beyond his reach, his friends say he is looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
That was really lovely. I just want this R and this TH
For
the. Let's pretend it's one word.
for the
For the. Like,
is looking for the pot.
yeah, that sounds really good.
Oh, it said you had network issues, so I stopped.
Hear me?
Yes.
Is it okay now? Okay.
Yeah, it's good now. Is looking for the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Brilliant. So honestly, there was only one thing that I could split hairs with about each sentence, which means you're doing all the other stuff sounding great. But I know you're reading it carefully.
I was reading it carefully,
right? So that's the point, right? It's like a script that you're made aware of the sounds as you're reading them. Like the letters bring a sound out, really.
But that's it's good that we got to I guess I guess we could express how good you are at an accent based on the words per minute that you can deal with in that accent, like as a KPI.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea. That could be a measure. Sometimes people want a measure of how they've changed, and it could literally be like there used to be 6 off-target pronunciations in the sentence, and now there's only 1. I'm gonna go over it, and I'm gonna pronounce it for you, and I want you to kind of not worry about the spelling, not worry about the words, but just kind of echo my movements and echo my sounds, just to glue the words together. So there's nothing wrong with what you're doing, but I'm gonna read it like less carefully, basically. And then if you can repeat after me, you can make it a little bit more lazy, I guess, you know, because if you want to sound like a native speaker, you have to almost be as sloppy as the native speakers, which, you know, you got to draw the line somewhere. But so, yeah, I'll try and make that obvious, anything that I'm changing. When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air.
You wanted me to repeat, sorry.
Yeah.
I know you just gave me the instruction. But
it's okay.
When the sunlight strikes raindrops in the air.
They act as a prism and form a rainbow.
They act as a prism and form a rainbow.
Nicely done. So you're kind of copying those like hits that I'm doing and that intonation that I'm doing.
So yeah. That always becomes easier when I've already read a text once. Like the reason it was more news anchor mode was because I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, you got to save some energy for the exercise. Like I don't know what other exercises are happening.
And you need to leave yourself space as well. Like if you do, because when I run our community calls, it's like a question and answer format, and it's a bit like a radio show where anyone could come on and ask you a question, right? Like a call-in radio show. So sometimes you need to like reduce your speed, particularly if you're getting like a fresh answer to a question that you need to read out, because you're going to be speaking and reading at the same time. What happens to me is if I need to read something quickly and speak at the same time, I skip over the words, and then sometimes I say something completely different to what's actually in front of me. And if you're talking about technical topics, that can be a real issue because you're giving the wrong advice.
Yeah, just a different word shows up.
Yeah,
that's an interesting thing. That's cool, like radio show. That's what I kind of think of, like our sessions is like it's like a radio show for someone to listen. I guess podcast is
like, for the 20. If you're one of those 25 people, we really appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you. Those are the real ones. Those 25 people tuning in every time. Yeah. It's like a job well done is its own reward. So even if I don't have 50,000 subscribers on YouTube, I'm still satisfied with my work. Is that cheesy?
You could
Okay.
always come up with a more watchable format, like because I feel like you get better views on YouTube if you do a 10-minute thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I was going to ask you
and
about that, whether you'd want to actually to have like a bit of like a radio show for 10 minutes. Anywho,
Yeah.
let's work on the passage and I'll tell you that at the end.
yes,
Yeah, I'll try not to make you go too long today.
I do need to leave at 3, by the way. So I do have time, but I need to go at 3 because I
because you
I
have
need
a
to do
life.
something really boring in this too. No, I'm the holder of the key.
Ooh, that's
And somebody needs to get into the storage room that is behind that this key is for.
you're the gatekeeper.
Yeah, I'm the gatekeeper.
All right, I won't work you too hard or too long. That's not fair. Let's go to this. Did I do this one sentence yet?
No, you didn't. Shall I try and do it more natural and you give me feedback? Or do you want to do it first? I don't want to change your exercise.
Actually, I just want to do one part of this first and then get you to do the whole thing.
Yeah, no. However you want.
Yeah. The thing I wanted to do specifically was to do white light, but to not release the T's at the end so that they're clipped, like white light, like that. White light into many, like that. So try the sentence with just that one change of like a clipped.
The rainbow is a division of white light into many beautiful colors.
That's lovely. Nice white light. You got that. It's very Canadian sounding.
I actually really notice that when I record myself and I do the white light, it sounds very different from what it should sound like.
Does it sound like more Canadian?
No, if I do white light, it just
with
sounds
the T's.
off. Yeah, because of the T's.
Yeah. It's too kind of formal to do it with the T's. But
and you stop yourself from being able to do a Canadian rise on the end of it because you're stopping in the middle, so then it doesn't sound Canadian anymore.
That's it. Yeah, it is less Canadian sounding with the T's for sure. Like white light. Yeah, that's a little bit awkward too to stop there. So excellent work on that sentence. This one, it was probably just the listing intonation that I did because I'm listing and I'm talking about something. I kind of do this intonation like, these take the shape of a long round arch with its path high above and its 2 ends apparently beyond the horizon. So do you hear that? Long round arch, keeping people listening, with its path high above, midpoint, and its 2 ends apparently beyond the horizon, going down. So that's the only thing I would change for the sentence, and you can do it on your own.
These take the shape of a long round arch with its path high above and its 2 ends apparently beyond the horizon.
Nicely done. Now, not totally sure, but was this an F sound maybe?
Maybe.
Let's hear one.
Yeah, it was an F. It was an F sound because my tongue didn't go out far enough. So it came out as an F.
Let me hear that. Maybe like just this part.
These take the shape of a long round arch with its path high above.
Lovely. And on that second pass, you also did the R more in arch. So I didn't even have to say anything, but your second pass. Yeah. Excellent work. This one sounded really good, actually. So now let me hear this one using that like listing intonation, right? Ba-ba, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba, ba-da-da-da-ba-da-ba.
There is, according to legend, a boiling pot of gold at one end.
Perfect. Exactly. And that flap T was on point. Try this one still. People look,
but no one ever finds it.
That R too and ever. You didn't leave that one out. For this one, my suggestion is to connect beyond with his so that you don't have to do the H sound at all. So it's like beyond is. Beyond is like that. Is that weird? Does that seem weird?
No, that seems right. Yeah.
Let's just do that phrase up to reach. Let me hear that.
when a man looks for something beyond, when a man looks for something beyond his reach. No, sorry, let me do it one more time. When a man looks for something beyond his reach.
That was really nice. Yeah. When a man looks for something beyond his reach, and that little up that I'm doing, it's like letting the listener know that's like a verbal comma.
Mm-hmm.
Reach, and then people are hanging on still. So this way of like putting up our voice at the end makes it so that people can't interrupt us as easily. Not that I'm going to interrupt you in the middle of a script, but
when a man looks for something beyond his reach,
perfect.
his friends say he is looking for the pot of gold. At the end of the rainbow. I missed that.
That sounded great. So do you know about this rule about killing the H in his or hers when we're connecting it to the end of something? Have you noticed this one yet, this rule?
I don't think we've gone through it. I hadn't particularly noticed it.
Okay, I'm just gonna write some phrases down. I don't want to keep you too much longer because I don't want to like explain too many things and then it's like, what do I remember? So with this passage, which maybe you can record more of later or the rest of later, I will just introduce this new topic or this idea of killing the H on pronouns that start with H.
Oh, like in I don't even know her.
Yeah. So this one is always my example. I use took her. So I took her out for dinner. You know, I got him a sandwich. So do you hear I'm saying got him? Like that? Can you think of another example of ending a word that you would connect to the H? It would be a consonant.
I left him outside.
Yes. Basically, we're just like rewriting the words.
Only because my boyfriend is trying to convince me to get a dog. I don't know if I said, but he works for the BCSPCA and he keeps sending me like pictures of his dog of the week. And it usually goes something along we're not allowed dogs in our apartment, so it would never happen. But he sends me the pictures and he goes, I know 2 very loving dog parents who could adopt them.
That's so sweet.
It's very difficult to continuously say no.
Yeah, no doubt. Like animals need love. For real.
When we move, we might get a dog.
You don't want
it's
to have
now recorded,
dog.
so I'll definitely have to look into it.
We got it. We got the evidence. Yeah. Can you think of like one more that you might use? Like we have her, him, he, and him. Maybe one with his, like I got his number, like got his number.
Yeah.
Got his number. Do you have any others you can think of? We can do hers with an S.
Hers.
The
one I'm thinking of is this hers?
You would say the H on that one, right?
Yeah, because hers is in focus.
You don't need me anymore. You could run this show. Honestly.
Oh.
Did you ask her?
Did you ask her?
That like. So now that I've mentioned this, you're like, oh yeah, I know how to use it. It's totally fine. So
yeah, really because you mentioned it, so it's become clear that, and it actually like what's happening whenever this happens, whenever you point something out that is actually really obvious, and that happens a lot in usage of speech, like my brain immediately goes, oh yeah, that's how you say it, and that's how other people say it.
It's definitely that. Oh yeah, you start to notice once it's pointed out to you, but you can't notice until someone's pointed out to you because of like change blindness.
Yeah,
this thing that we probably talked about change blindness before. Okay, I'm not going to give you any more work to do because I think you did a lot already. But yeah, I was asking.
I can dip into the PDF and do more of it in the week.
That would be great. Would you be interested in doing like a Q&A for our YouTube family, basically about pride or about language related to the 2S LGBTQIA plus community, which I'm a part of? Hopefully that's obvious, but if it's not obvious.
I mean, either way, I would have been happy to do it, but
So I don't talk too much about being queer on YouTube because it doesn't really like come up during lessons or anything. Like I don't have like a partner to mention that would like disclose immediately. So I how do I work it in? You know, I used to be in a queer choir and I would tell people that you should come see my queer choir or performing at Pride or whatever. So maybe people would be interested in hearing two people from the community have a discussion about the language that's used, or maybe like what's why we still need pride even, or what.
oh yeah, and reclaiming terms. We should have a question on that.
Oh yes, I've met a lot of people where I tell them I'm queer and then they won't use the word queer back with me because they're like, it's a slur.
but we need to be careful because when we go when we finally become famous and it goes viral, we will get demonetized.
That's true, actually. So we have to use a code word now. We're back. Oh, now we're back with code words. Yeah, because it might be interesting for people just to hear a conversation two people are having and have that conversation be listenable. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Yeah.
this is a lot of people don't know anyone from the queer community. Like students I would talk to, I was like, oh, do you have anyone to talk to about these types of issues or anything? And they'll say no, and then I'll say, oh, well, you have me, so you can talk to me about this. And also you can talk to me about it if you're shy or like not sure of stuff, and like you don't have to risk offending me because I'm offering to tell you about it. I'm offering to teach you about it. So it's nice to have students take me up on that offer and just ask questions themselves if they're like, oh, how do I use pronouns, or what do I do with, you know, what do I do if I don't know someone's pronouns, for instance? I always just say mine, and then that's like a prompt for that person to say them, or look in their like email signature. Because more people are doing that nowadays. So anyways, I'm glad you're open to that. Maybe we can do that for our next session.
Yeah.
Like have like a 15 minutes, because then we'll keep it juicy and not too long for people to kind of take in. And yeah, I don't have any other ideas other than just having a conversation. So if you have a topic that you want to cover, let me know.
Can you put just a one-liner in there so that I don't forget? I'll write some questions and I'll send them to you in an email, and then you can maybe make like a question list that we can work off, just so we know what we're covering in the time, so that we don't go over, because yeah, we should stay in that 15 minutes, because I think that's pretty good. If it's going on YouTube, that would be just the right amount of time.
So it takes tall order to get anyone to watch things that are longer these days.
Yeah.
Yes, that would be awesome. So send me some questions if you want. I'm not an expert. I'm just like my own individual person. So
it's about our lived experience, right?
Exactly.
I find that because I run our employee resource group, I have a lot of people who maybe moved to Vancouver by themselves, and they've got a relationship issue and they want to talk to someone. So that does happen. I'm definitely no expert. And there's always more you can learn.
Yeah, definitely. There's always more I can learn. I can't like take off my own conditioning, you know, like I'm still trying after all these years to see through it. So that would be wonderful. Thank you. We'll do that next time. I'll leave you be now. You've done enough work. Just think about the killing the H on pronouns for the next week and notice how many people around you are using it, and see if your boyfriend uses it. Like, see if he does that killing of the H. Like, is it part of his
I don't think he has that. I think he actually does like an intentional stop and then goes him, or not intentional, but there is a pause, which is why I guess this is an element of a northern Welsh accent in particular, because they have got a slightly different melody to them to maybe people who are from the north of England but not the north of Wales.
That's true. Welsh is such a musical like lovely sounding accent.
His one's more like his one's more Liverpudlian, but like like the melody of the accent
Yeah.
helps you distinguish between like a proper Scouse accent.
That's good to know.
Maybe we'll get him on the show sometime to demonstrate.
Yeah, Welsh. Oh, I would love that, actually. I don't think I've ever spoken with, for speech purposes, I've never spoken with a Welsh speaker to talk about accent stuff. But yeah.
My family thinks, and I need to go, but my family thinks he's fluent in Welsh, which he really isn't. What he does is he sits down and he'll say random Welsh words until somebody is convinced that he speaks fluently.
It's like, how would they know, right? It's like, sounds Welsh to me. Yeah. It's beautiful. I like hearing it. I don't actually get a lot of exposure. GC, the Global Cycling Network that I watch, has a Welsh presenter, which I like. I get to hear her voice. So it always comes back to cycling for me.
Okay,
thank you
I'm
for
gonna
a wonderful
go.
session. See you
Thank
next
you very much.
time. Have
See
a
you next
lovely
time.
Thank you.
And you. Bye-bye.